Coordinate, methods of manipulation, problem, reaction, solution. This is a term I came up with many years ago to describe this fundamentally important key technique of mass manipulation. And it's a problem, reaction, solution is another way of saying ordo ab chaos, which is the 33rd degree of Freemason motto, which translates as order out of chaos. What you do is you create a problem covertly and you blame someone else for it. You tell the people the version of the problem you want through an unquestioning mainstream media who just repeats it without question or research. You want the people at stage 2 in fear, reptilian brain, primitive emotional responses, through fear and outrage, basically either say, something must be done, what are you going to do about it, which allows those who created the problem covertly and got that reaction to openly make changes in legislation to push the agenda on. Or you get people thinking, I don't really want this to happen, but it's the only thing that we could do in these circumstances. I've heard it while I've been here, 3 days. We've got to join the European Union in Croatia because we got no choice. We never have no choice. Never. We have choices we'd like to make, choices we wouldn't like to make, and whatever. But we never have no choice. The idea that we have no choice is one of the great manipulations. Well, I had no choice. Cop out. Anyway, the Second World War. Thank you. I'll get into the European Union and Croatia, but not very long. It's very important. This is the problem, reaction, solution of the Second World War. They controlled Soviet communism. In fact, they created it through Lenin and Trotsky and all these people. They controlled the so-called capitalist West. They controlled Nazi fascism. They put the Nazi party into power. And then they brought them into conflict in the Second World War, which was a massive problem. And then to offer the solution so that we never have another war again like that, they created the United Nations, the European Union. One of the justifications for which was if we trade together, we won't fight. We had the Bretton Woods Agreement with the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank that followed and all this stuff. And it was justified by the Second World War, which was a problem, reaction, solution. One of the key people that funded the Nazis, so they became the power they were in the Second World War just a few years after the Weimar Republic collapsed amid fantastic inflation, was the Bush family in America. Prescott Bush, the Boy Bush's grandfather, he was a major executive in a company called the Union Banking Corporation, which was owned by the Harriman family, another one of these bloodlines in America. And it interfaced with the banking and steel empire of a guy called Fritz Thyssen in Europe, and they funneled money from the Union Banking Corporation in America through to Thyssen, and he was acknowledged, of course, as one of the major funders of Hitler, because the money came from America. The Ernst Rudin, Hitler's race purity expert, had a whole floor of a German university for his research, paid for by the Rockefeller family. There are no borders with the Illuminati. They just do what's necessary to bring about the problems that they can offer the solutions to. And as a result of the Second World War, of course, the world changed fantastically everywhere. Now, there's another version of it now called no problem, reaction, solution. Example, weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, where you don't need a real problem, you just need to sell the perception of one, like global warming and Al Gore. By the way, there's one thing I've learned over the years about Al Gore, many things I've learned, but one key thing. If Al Gore is involved, it's a scam. And therefore, global warming's a scam. And when you start to see that 31,000 scientists have now signed a document saying there is nothing to justify the hysteria about global warming, you know you're starting to make some progress. Now, what we've had in America is a presidential version of problem, reaction, solution unfold before our eyes in the last few years. George Bush was brought in, only as a frontman, to create massive problems with military excursions abroad and invasions and all the rest of it. And also towards the end, right on cue of his presidency, massive economic collapse, which is far worse than they're telling because they have something else in store along those lines. Now, what they then did was bring in this man who came from nowhere, like Heli did, Barack Obama, a total con man who's involved with some real despicable pieces of work, not least a guy called Tony Rezko, a slum landlord who's now in jail for fraud, who was one of his major fundraisers through his political career. And he was brought forward and sold extraordinarily well to a gullible public as like the new broom sweeping clean. They had the big smile and all the rest of it. And his job is to come in, because he got elected because he wasn't George Bush. I mean, anyone had a chance going against after 8 years of Bush. And his job is to sell the solutions to the problems that Bush brought about. And those solutions, and we're seeing them by the day now, if you follow my website headlines, etc., and others, as the agenda is introduced by this guy. Hope-gnosis. Hope. What a waste of time hope is. It's like going round on a carousel horse hoping you'll catch up with the one in front. Because hope's always in the future, isn't it? It's never in the now. I hope things will get better. I'm going to accept this shite now because I hope things will get better. No, I want change now, thank you very much. Bugger your hope, I'll have it now, thank you. Let's get moving. So he's sold this idea, and they did it brilliantly. It was a big mind control operation. If you notice, at no point in that entire year of campaigning against Hillary Clinton and John McCain did he once give any detail about what he meant by change, hope, and something to believe in. Nothing. So what they did was create an empty screen on which the people were projecting their version of what that meant upon him. So he became all things to all men and women, because he represented what hope, believe, and change meant to them, because he never articulated it. If he had, and he said, what I really believe is what he's doing now, he wouldn't have got elected. Change. It's all mind control, look. You put it in the subconscious, subliminal, change. Don't say anything. As the Nazis said, make the lie big, make it simple, keep saying it, and eventually they will believe it. Adolf Hitler. Make the lie big, make it simple, keep saying it, and eventually they will believe it. Exactly the same thing was played. If it works, why change it? I found this, I thought this was very appropriate to Obama. The wolf found that shepherd's clothing worked even better. It's what it is. He's a fraud. He's a fraud and a shyster on every kind of level you can imagine. And the people that have brought him to power are people from one of the most corrupt political systems in the world, Chicago. And if you're not corrupt or acceptable to the corrupt, you have no way of making progress politically in Chicago. This guy soared from nothing because he represents the same cabal that the Bush family did. One of his handlers or mentors and key advisors on foreign policy is Zbigniew Brzezinski, Jimmy Carter's national security advisor, who admitted a few years ago in a Paris magazine interview that as doing that job with Carter, he funded and trained freedom fighters in Afghanistan to undermine the cabal government that was then controlled by the Soviet Union. And he let the Soviet Union know that he and America were doing it to try to entice the Soviet Union to invade Afghanistan, to give them, in his words, Brzezinski, their Vietnam. Eventually, they bit and they invaded, as you remember, Afghanistan, and 1 million Afghans died as a result of that invasion. He saw no problem with that in the interview because it weakened another superpower. No empathy.